out there can watch that clip and not say to themselves, I have to try that. Jockey shifting and foot clutching are hands down the most exhilarating way to enjoy motorcycling. But many people never fully get to enjoy the experience because they do not bother to learn the 3 most critical skills to mastering this setup. That's what we're talking about today. I'm Grease, you're watching Grease's Garage, and I'm gonna help you skip the struggle. All right, guys, let's jump right into the list. Skill number 1 is mastering your takeoff. This is the building block on which everything else we talk about in this video is going to be built. I'm assuming for the sake of this video that you are a new foot clutch rider who's looking to jump in and learn these critical skills. So let's say you just got this set up on your bike. The first thing you are going to do is get that bike out to a flat stretch of road with no traffic or a parking lot where you can practice some fundamental skills before you take this out into traffic. Now that I've got you guys pulled in here on the clutch angle of the motorcycle, let me just explain what it is you're looking at. When I push this shifter back, which is toward the camera, that is me shifting into first gear, or if I'm already in gear, that's me shifting down. When you see me push this clutch lever forward like this, that is me shifting up. Now, if you see me doing this right here, where I'm sort of holding the clutch lever for a little longer, that's me shifting into neutral. I have a rotary top transmission on this bike and I absolutely love it. It is super easy to find neutral, super easy to go in and out of gear. Now that you know what you're looking at, let's talk about your foot clutch training regimen. You are going to start with 20 reps of this exercise. You're going to take off from a stop. So you're going to shift into first gear like this, take off like you're seeing on screen. Now I'm shifting the bike into neutral and then I'm coasting to a stop and I'm putting that left foot down on the ground. You need to do 20 reps of this. The reason we're going to do so many reps of something that seems so basic is because you have to build muscle memory. You're building that muscle memory not only in your leg, but also in your shifter hand, in what it feels like to shift into first, how it feels to finesse it into neutral. The only way to make this automatic to the point where you don't even have to think about it is to just do the reps, do the work that gets you that muscle memory to where you do it without even thinking. So start off with 20 reps of starting from a stop, shifting into neutral, and then coming to a stop. So you're 20 reps into that first exercise. Now we're going to shift gears just a little bit here, and we're going to change the way that we come to a stop. So now we're going to do 20 reps of starting from a stop, not coming out of gear. You're going to stay in first for this, and you are going to come to a stop and leave that left foot on the clutch pedal. This is a very critical skill because this is what you're going to do in stop and go traffic. People on the internet who have never ridden a foot clutch motorcycle before sort of have this misguided assumption that the only way to stop is to put the bike into neutral and then come to a stop. This is why they always ask, how do you drive that bike in stop and go traffic? The answer is we do it exactly like you do it. We don't come out of gear. So let's start building that skill. 20 reps of starting the bike from a stop, coasting for as long as you need to feel comfortable, and then with that bike still in first gear, as you're seeing on the screen, come to a stop. I should mention at this point in the video too, that this is a lot easier to learn, and I recommend learning this with a front brake. Obviously, my bike does not have a front brake, so I can't demonstrate that part for you. But coming to a stop in gear is a lot easier when you're squeezing the front brake and you don't have to worry about keeping your right foot on that brake pedal. So if you have a front brake and you're looking to try this out, leave the front brake on. You're going to have a much easier time building that muscle memory in your left leg. So at this point, you should be 40 reps into this, and you should be starting to feel very comfortable with the way your left foot is operating that clutch and the way your left hand is operating that shifter. For this final exercise, we're going to do another 20 reps, but this time we're going to change it up just a little bit. Like you're seeing on screen here, you're going to shift into first gear, shift up into second gear, then back down into first gear, and then back into neutral. Let's talk through that one more time. You're going to start off in first gear, take off from a stop, shift into second gear, back down to first gear, then into neutral, and come to a stop. You're going to do 20 reps of this. This is going to show you how to shift down and how to shift up, as well as continuing to strengthen the muscle memory in that left leg. So before we move on, let's just summarize what we learned so far. The skill is letting off that clutch smoothly and consistently. How do you build it? The 60 reps we just talked about. Once you feel comfortable and you're building that muscle memory and you feel like you can just do it on autopilot, you're ready to move on to the next skill. Before I tell you what the second skill is that is crucial to enjoying your foot clutch jockey shift setup, let me just give you some good news. You just practiced 60 reps of it without even recognizing it. That skill, of course, is finding your shifter in a hurry. Now, this might not even seem like a separate category to you, but everything we're doing today is building upon the previous skill. Because once we get into the third one, it's going to require you to have mastery of finding your shifter and letting off your clutch. But each one of these skills plays a crucial role. The reason I put this second instead of first, where you might think it ought to be, is because you just did 60 reps of finding that shifter. And this is the best time to ask yourself this question. How did it feel reaching back for that shifter? Because when you're building a bike in your garage and looking at it on a lift or maybe sitting on the bike and reaching down to it, that's all well and good. But there's nothing that really replicates the feel of riding that bike and reaching for that shifter. A lot of times, jockey shifters are something that people will buy. There's tons of companies out there that make jockey shifters and they make them in whatever size they make them in. And when you're sitting on your bike, that size might work perfect for you, or it might not work perfect for you. So here's my recommendation if things aren't feeling as smooth for you as they should. As you can see in this shot right here, when I'm sitting on the bike, the best place, in my opinion, to have your shifter is where your arm naturally hangs. If you were in a seated position like this, and I drop my arm down like you're seeing here, you can see the shift lever on my bike is exactly where my hand wants to be. So when I'm cruising like this down the road, and I just drop a hand, my hand automatically lands on my shifter. That's where you want your shifter to be. And for this reason, unless you happen to be appropriately sized to where your off-the-rack shifter fit perfectly, I highly recommend that you make your own jockey shifter, or at least buy one and modify the length to whatever length you need, because it's very rare that you just buy something and it fits perfectly. The third and most important skill we're going to talk about today is engine braking. If you don't have a front brake on the bike, this is paramount. You must learn how to use your engine to slow you down. This is the replacement for your front brake. Now, before we even talk any more about how to engine brake, let's go out to the bike and show you what it looks like, and more importantly, what it sounds like. Now, as you can probably hear in these clips, that engine is getting pretty loud when I downshift and have that engine power help me to slow the bike down. But there's a couple things that go into this that are very important to remember. The first is that it requires you to ride in the appropriate gear. What do I mean by that? Well, if you are putting around in, let's say, on my 4-speed, if I was putting around town in third gear instead of second gear, and I downshift into second gear, it's really not going to do all that much. Here's a shot of what it looks like on the bike when you downshift from too high a gear into the gear you probably should have been cruising at in the first place. What you'll probably notice in listening to that clip after the first clip is that the engine really wasn't revving that much higher when I downshifted. And the reason for that is because the gear is just too tall to really pull the bike to a stop. For engine braking to be effective, you want to spend the majority of your riding time at the top end of whatever gear you're riding around in. So now that you know what you're looking for with engine braking and you understand what engine braking is, what we're going to practice is incorporating engine braking with your rear brake. So you're going to do 20 reps of engine braking combined with rear braking. Let's see what that looks like. Now that we've got that covered, one thing I want to mention is you want to avoid locking up that rear wheel. The inclination might be to downshift that bike and just slam that pedal. But that's going to lead you fishtailing and out of control and potentially even dumping the bike. So when you're doing these reps, you do not want to be squealing your tire to a stop. It's not a habit you want to get into. You want to learn part of that muscle memory we talked about earlier. You want to learn how hard you can push that pedal before that pedal locks up. So in order to consider any of your reps a good rep, it cannot be with a locked up rear wheel. Now guys, this video is about the 3 skills that people fail to master that leads them to not enjoying jockey shift and potentially even removing it from their bike altogether. But there's a lot more than just these 3 skills that go into riding a jockey shift motorcycle. If you want to learn what the rest of those skills are, this video right here will show you the full list of everything you need to know. The only video on the internet that will teach you how to ride a jockey shift motorcycle. It was the video that inspired the video you're watching right now. So if you haven't seen it, go give it a watch. I had a lot of fun making it, and I think it's really going to help you enjoy your jockey shift riding even more. Thanks for watching Grease's Garage, and I will catch you guys next week.